And we are back. And in celebration of our 31 days of Halloween, we are getting into the Final Destination series. We're going to start with number 1. But before we do, we want to welcome back our buddy Zack. Thank you, Zack, for coming in and chatting with us on these crazy, crazy horror, just juggernauts, really, because they've done incredibly well for the studios.
Glad to be here.
Yay. So let's get into it. Number 1. Just Final Destination came out in 2000. Wow. This movie's 25 years old? Is that real?
I guess.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. This was directed by James Wong, who is our new current godfather of horror, I guess, with a screenplay credit to Glen Morgan, James Wong, Jeffrey Reddick, from a story by Jeffrey Reddick. This stars Devon Sawa as Alex Browning, who is supposed to board a high school student who's supposed to board a flight to Paris with some classmates, but has a strange vision premonition of things to happen and freaks out, and in the process prevents several of his classmates plus a teacher from getting on the flight, which ultimately just blows up for some bizarre reason. They don't get into the mechanics of why it blows up, do they? I don't remember.
I mean, there's a lot of little cuts to random things, but yeah, it just kind of blows up.
Yeah. And then from there, we go into the story where one by one, these students ultimately meet their death because death is just up to shenanigans and is making a sport out of killing. I guess he's bored with just people dying of old age and stuff, so he's got to spice it up here. I'm going to start with Zack. Did you see this movie originally in the theater?
Not in theaters, but I saw it very shortly after it came to VHS back in the day.
Back in the day. What did you think about it?
I loved it. My mom was about to go on a flight when we watched it, so it terrified her because she was like, I shouldn't have watched this before I got on a flight. But yeah, no, I loved it right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's, as a lover of horror, right? I mean, it harkens back to even the Scream movies and the I Know What You Did Last Summer type of movies that start with a group of young people in just a very weird situation, then making horrible, horrible decisions. What did you think? I mean, you and I have watched this previously. I don't think we've sat through it from start to finish like we did in this marathon, but what did you think of it, the first one?
This was actually the first time I've actually watched this movie. I
mean, I feel like we've seen pieces of it here and there.
I may have seen fragments of it, but it's like at the point where, I mean, there's so many of these movies and there are so many deaths that I don't really know which deaths go into which movies. This is the front to back. This is like the first time I've actually just sat down, watched a Final Destination movie.
Okay, what'd you think?
This, I could see why, like, when it first came out, it never really appealed to me because there wasn't anything, to me it just felt like there wasn't anything to fight against. It was just, you're gonna die. And the only reason really to watch the movies was to just see grisly deaths.
Well, I think that's the whole point.
Yeah,
right?
that's the whole point. Did this
becomes
film
more and more outlandish, right?
Did this film come out like around the same time as like those Hostel movies where, like, I remember there was like a couple of years where it was just like they called it like a torture porn genre. It was like this little subgenre of horror.
This was released even before you and I started dating. This came out in March of 2000. So
was it part of the torture porn genre?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, it's definitely.
I think it predates Hostel and even Saw by a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't think they really get into that stuff until like later in the 2000s. Yeah, I agree with Zack.
I mean, the thing about it is just that, like, the sort of like Rube Goldberg-esque ways that these people die. I think that's the appeal, and
sure.
I feel like this was a good start, but I think the best was yet to come.
Okay, fair enough. I agree with you on that. But I think also, I mean, it's 2000, right? So this story is probably germinating in somebody's brain in the 90s, right? So I think that you have, again, I Know What You Did Last Summer, you have your Screams, you had your Halloweens, you had all these other horror movies. I mean, obviously, this film is by someone who loves horror, right? It's by people that appreciate the genre, appreciate some of the campiness, appreciate some of the morbidity of it, the gore, and horror is cheap. And I think you and I were discussing this before. I mean, there's not really star power attached to these films, right?
I think the biggest star in that one was Ali Larder. I'd actually seen her in other stuff.
Right. I mean, I heard of Devon Sawa too. So
Devon Sawa was a big name in the like mid to late 90s. He was like sort of a teen heartthrob on the level of like Jonathan Taylor Thomas sort of scale. Like he was that level of famous. Like his star power had faded a little by the time.
What else was he in? I don't remember that kid at all.
I don't think I followed any of his stuff, but I had heard his name. I didn't know who he was, but I think I think Zach's right. Like he was definitely like one of those Tiger Beat young men. I think this was a departure for him because he was more in like, I guess, fluff entertainment before, whereas it's a genre horror piece, right? And I think to me the biggest name obviously is Tony Todd, but he doesn't have a lot of screen time here. And so having mentioned Tony Todd, I'm going to go to Zach first. Is Tony Todd death, do you think?
Well, without spoiling later franchises, the answer is definitively no.
No. Okay.
But in the early movies, they do sort of insinuate and imply that he might be.
Okay. Because that was like the whole. I mean, that was the take that I got. Although you don't see him in the later films, but.
Yeah, like the third and fourth one, he's
completely.
Is he in the fourth one at all?
He's not in the fourth one at all. I believe he's only in the third one as a voiceover.
Yeah. And the second one, he's like, it's funny because in the first one, he's in a mortician area.
Yeah.
It looks like a place where a mortician works. And then the second one, it's like he's like in the crypt keeper's bedroom or something.
Yeah, the second one's still my favorite, I think. All right, so let's get back into it. So I think for a first one, it sets up the story kind of nicely. Would you agree to that?
Oh, yeah, it sets it up. I think the thing that bothered me was like you were mentioning the other types of films that were kind of out. There was an antagonist, and it was like a physical antagonist.
Oh, okay.
And like for me, it's sort of like, well, what are you going to do against death? There's really not much you could do. It's sort of like, oh, we're escaping these fates by the skin of our teeth, maybe. And then it's sort of, at the end, it really doesn't even matter.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, there's no victory in these movies.
Well, I don't think there's supposed to be honest.
All right, so 2 notes on that real quick. Number 1 is that Jeffrey Reddick, the guy who wrote the story and created the characters for the first one, and then I think he wrote on 2 and 4 maybe. I don't think he had anything to do with 3 or 5. He like came out recently and like lamented that they didn't have anything that they could sell as merch as far as the killer went. Like he was sort of lamenting that like the Ghostface mask is like iconic and they can sell merch. And he was just like, we had a disembodied like antagonist. Like, how are we supposed to sell merch about that?
Yeah.
And then number 2, like they do establish that there are ways of beating death in 2 and 5. That are considered canon by the time 6 comes around. There is something that they posit in number 2 that is then retconned later in the series, but they do establish in not number 1, but in later movies that there is a way around like to beat death. And in fact, at the end of 2, they do beat death. 2 of them do beat death.
Yeah. I think that's probably why I like 2 the most, because there was a
workaround.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for a happy ending. As happy as you can get in a Final Destination movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think with supernatural horror, there needs to be firm rules.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like the movie lives and dies on how the rules work. And I think that's why these movies do work for the most part, is that like they, especially like number 1 really goes out of the way to like as Alex figures out what the rules are, like explain to the viewer what the rules are.
Yeah.
So, okay, just out of curiosity, we're going to, I guess, format this review a little bit different. If you were going to give number one a number from 1 to 10, what would you say, 1 to 10?
I mean, for me, it was kind of average, so I'd probably give it like a 5 or a 6. Maybe a 6. Maybe a little bit better than average.
Yeah, I was going to give it like a 6.5. What do you say, Zach?
I am inclined to go somewhere between a 7 and an 8. Like if I'm grading it on the scale of all cinema, probably a 7. Be generous. If I'm giving it a grading within the Final Destination franchise, probably closer to an 8 or a 9.
Ah, interesting. Actually, you know what? I think Zach makes a good point. So I'm going to up my number to a 7. Yes, for number one, I am going to up my number to a 7 because to me, at least, we were trying to watch all 5. We couldn't. We're going to talk about 1 through 4 now, and then we're going to come back and talk about 5 and the new Bloodlines ones at a later date with Zach. But, I'm going to raise my number 1 Final Destination to a 7 because within the scope of these stories, it is a solid origin story piece where you get the framework of what's going to happen. Are the deaths ridiculous? Absolutely. I think that's the point. But I feel like you're heavily invested in these stakes. I think you genuinely feel bad for Alex's character because he's just watching all this mayhem unfold in front of him without any way of sort of, to your point, being able to overcome it. So having said that, I want to jump into number 2 because of the 4 that we just recently watched back to back. I think that is my favorite. However, my only complaint about that was that they killed Alex off screen. He's just a news item on a newspaper, which really kind of bothered me, but still didn't take me out of the story. So I enjoyed the crap out of the second one. I don't know if it was because I don't know that it was intentionally supposed to be a funny film, but you and I were just laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
So I have one point about Final Destination 1 before we move on.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It was just that, like, in Final Destination 1, they did think the way to beat death was just by surviving the order. They thought if they could survive the order, they would be good. And then at the end, you find that it just comes back around until 2, when they establish there's ways of permanently breaking the cycle. But in 1, their conception was if we can just survive through this rotation, we'll be good.
Right. That's the other thing about these films. Like, where are you going to go? You can't really go to Google for information. You know what I mean? There's no, like, precedence. So you're kind of flying blind, which I think makes the whole story interesting. Because it's
in the later movies, they do go to Google. They do exactly that, yeah.
They do, but I mean, at this point in time, in the first one, you have this young man who's in high school who really is just going into adulthood. He doesn't have a roadmap of how life is supposed to play out, much less how to battle death, right? So I think it's really interesting, and that's why I felt like I had stakes in this game because I was like, oh my God, I really want this kid to survive, right? You empathize for Alex, you feel bad for him, and then he starts having this relationship with Claire.
I will say that with the first 2 movies, it is definitely a lot more like on the protagonist to sort of figure things out.
Yes.
Whereas like by the time, and without getting into it because we're not there yet, with like 3 and 4, they're given these additional sort of abilities or features that help them like figure out like the next death. Whereas in number 1 and number 2, especially number 1, like Alex's premonitions are like a piece of like paper that goes through a fan that then blows back on him and it says like a name and then he's like, oh no. Or like he sees like the reflection of the bus before the bus passes in the window. And then in like 3 and 4, like they're given these almost like special paranormal devices or abilities that help them to like determine what's next. Whereas like in number 2, which is the one we're currently discussing, like the only real advantage they have is they have clear.
Yes. But then
I mean, they still have Tony Todd.
To an extent, yes, but she's
as helpful as he is.
Yes,
Yeah.
helpful as he is. Yeah, I think he was in the movie for what, maybe like 5 sentences. I don't.
Well, the thing that's weird about it is they're going to him for guidance. Like even Clear is just like, okay, I know what to do. We're gonna go visit Tony Todd.
Yes.
And it's sort of like, why? Why was that ever an option?
I guess because Alex met with him, but he's not.
Why did he even go? Like it's sort of like, okay, I'm having psychic visions about death. What am I gonna do?
I don't think he intentionally, like in the first one, I don't think he intentionally
they
goes
just sort
to
of
him.
they just sort of run into him
right.
in the mortuary.
Right, and then he does his whole exposition.
Yeah, he does all this exposition, and it's sort of like, okay, well, you seem to know a lot about this. Like,
right.
Why? Why does Tony Todd know anything about this? Just because
he's in a mortician's office and he sees death all the time. And I'm sure if you work in the mortuary sciences, like you're current on that shit, right?
Again, I will say it is explained in a later movie.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that because I'm just like, is there some sort of like secret mortuary school where they're just like, okay, now we're going to talk about death and he's going to come in and lecture us or something?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. And who's to say that Tony Todd is deaf? He could maybe not be. Like,
death shows up.
I mean, that's what we're given the assumption here. But
death shows up for a seminar, and it's like Wally Shawn or something.
So since we're on number 2, we got to talk about it, and maybe, we can talk about each one as we get there. But I do want to talk about the opening disasters.
Yes.
And why I think 2 has the best opening disaster that has left everybody who's seen this movie has developed a new phobia, much in the way that the people that saw Jaws 50 years ago were just like, oh, I don't want to go into the water. There could be sharks in there. Yeah. Now it's like you see a log truck on the highway. You're like, I don't want to be behind this boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you give the rundown like you did for
the first one?
The first one, yeah.
Okay, so in the second one, we're introduced.
No, give the year it came out and all.
Oh, sorry.
The info.
Oh, right. Sorry. So we are now going to talk about Final Destination 2, which came out in 2003. So not too far off from the first one, which came out in 2000. This one, again, is rated R and clocks in at 1 hour and 30 minutes. This is the sweet spot, I think, for horror films. It shouldn't be more than an hour 30 unless you're doing psychological horror. But for splatter, supernatural horror kind of things, 130 is the sweet spot. This comes to us from director David R. Ellis, with writing credits to J Mackye Gruber, Eric Bress, and Jeffrey Reddick, who's also part of the initial story and screenplay. And this one, we meet Kimberly, who is, I think she's in this car with a girlfriend and 2 guys in the back, and they're going somewhere. They're going to Fort Lauderdale, I think, for spring break or something.
Yeah, they're going to Florida.
And that was another thing. Sidebar: where do these take place in different states, or are they all in the same place? I'm going to ask Zack because he's the FD aficionado. Do you know?
I believe the first 3 take place in Long Island. I'm not 100% where 4 takes place off the top of my head. They're all sort of around Long Island in the first 3, because they're all around McKinley High, is my understanding. I could be wrong, and then I'm not sure where 4 takes place. I think 4 is sort of this amorphous, could be anywhere sort of scenario.
Right. Because the first one, you start out at JFK, so you're at the airport. These kids, they look like they're suburban kids. So yeah, Long Island. I forgot what town. Not Hempstead. I saw the town and I can't remember it now. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So then in the second one, we meet Kimberly, who's off to Fort Lauderdale. And then she also, kind of in line with the first one, starts getting these visions, premonitions of hijinks to happen. And in the process, I guess meets, is he a sheriff or a policeman? Tom.
He's like a policeman, yeah.
And narrowly escapes death. And then we go into trying to figure out what is going on, and then they bring back the Allie Larder character. For some reason, I thought it was Claire, but it's Clear. on the IMDb page. Am I listening?
Yeah.
Have I?
Yeah,
like,
no, it's
completely-
clear. Even
That's
in
such a weird name.
yeah,
No,
even in like the subtitles,
they
she's
did
always
say
referred to
that
as
in the
Clear.
subtitles. Yeah, because we watch movies with subtitles. Clear Rivers. That's a stupid name.
I think if IMDb trivia is to be believed, I think they named the character after a PA on the film.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that.
Let me just take a look at the IMDb trivia again real quick, but I'm pretty sure that was in the trivia for the first movie.
Interesting. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? To kind of give the PA that nod. I also want to point out, I think I said this before, these movies are just financial windfalls. I mean,
What did the first one do?
that's a good question. Let me go back to that page. I mean, I'm pretty sure it did just stupid numbers.
If it's got 5 sequels, yeah.
I mean, they're up to 6 technically with Bloodlines.
Well, the thing about like most horror is that you aim to produce it like for maybe like a third of what you end up making. So you try to keep it in the like, I don't know, somewhere around like the 20 million mark like these days.
Right.
You know, and you're hoping to gross like 90.
Yeah, these movies did well. So according to IMDb, the estimated budget on the first Final Destination is $23 million, to Zach's point. The initial opening in March of 2000 in the US and Canada was $10 million. The gross in US and Canada is $53 million, and the worldwide gross on this puppy is $112 million. So from about a $23 million investment, to get back 112 is not a bad day at the office. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So
those are kind of the numbers you're looking for with horror. Is
Yeah.
like you want a modest return.
right. And I think that's the other thing. So I mean, not to get off on a tangent, but I've always liked horror films, but I think it's because of that whole stereotype of liking to be scared. I like to kind of feel something, and I mean, obviously you feel things in dramatic movies and documentaries and all types of good storytelling. But I think the interesting thing about horror is that whenever I watch these films, I'm like, there, but by the grace of God go I. Like, I could have been in the plane going to France, or I could have been in the car behind the logs, right? So it's putting yourself in a situation that could potentially be fatal, right? And so as a lover of horror, I'm always gratified when horror is done really well. Are these movies winning any kind of awards? Probably not, but they're so freaking entertaining. It doesn't even matter, I think, right? So getting back to number 2, it was released in 2003 in January. This, we'll go really quickly over the numbers, had a budget of $26 million, came out February of 2003 and opened up at $16 million, did a little under $47 million in US and Canada, but worldwide gross is about $90 million, which is not bad, again, for your return on investment. Looks like the first one did a little bit better. There might be waning interest at this point, but I found the second one of the two. I mean, not that the first one was bad, but of the two, I liked the second one more. But I think it was more because I felt like it was more comedic.
There were funnier bits, yeah.
There were funnier bits to it. I don't know that the filmmaker's intention was that it was supposed to play as a comedy, but
No, I actually do think that they realized that like a little bit of levity is important to the franchise.
Yes.
As evident by like the increases levity in 3 and 4.
Yes.
They did dial it back for 5 and 6.
Okay.
But I do think that they realized that like, hey, like there is a little room here for some tongue-in-cheek sort of
nonsense,
lighthearted. Like even with the kills, like the kills got a little more elaborate. Like I think one that's like I definitely laughed at is the one with the kid,
With the
where
pigeons?
like where you think it's gonna be the dentist, and then it's just like, you know, just the sheet of glass.
That one made me laugh so hard just because.
Yeah, we all laughed. I think even the kids were in the room and they were like, "What are we watching?"
Well, I think all of
And that's by design.
Yes.
Like you're supposed to laugh. Like that is supposed to be a funny kill.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just because this kid couldn't resist running through a flock of pigeons.
I know. What was the point of that? But Okay, so
what's great about it too is that like right before he runs into it, they explicitly warn him. They're like, "No, don't," and he's like, "Oh, do it? Okay."
So this one, I think, and again, I'll defer to Zach, who's the aficionado here. This one sort of sets up more lore and I guess rules to an extent, because you get to know. In the first one, I felt like Alex was winging it, but I think because now there's precedence, they're referring back to what had happened with Flight 180. Kimberly and Tom get a kind of like a more comprehensive idea of what's happening. So they enlist Clear to come help them, and she's been hiding out at a nut house, I guess, all this time to avoid anything. Although something could have happened there too, right?
Yeah, I don't know
So
why she thought she would have been
safer
there.
Right. But then she gets the courage, I guess, to come out into the world and help these two figure out what's going on. I'm going to start with you. In number 2, I guess, I don't know, was that your favorite kill sequence? But what was your favorite kill sequence in number 2?
It was either the kid running into the pigeons, because the thing is, it's like you're killing a kid. Okay. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit older. He's not a tiny child, but he's still a kid.
Yeah.
You got to make the kid unlikable somehow. And up to that point, there was nothing really unlikable. He wasn't like a spoiled brat or anything. He was just some kid going to the dentist, and he handled that well. Mm. But then you just say, hey, don't go near the pigeons. And not only does he go near the pigeons, but it's like, he's just like, yeah, those fucking pigeons, I'm going to run into them. So seeing him get crushed, it was like you experience this moment of like, oh, that little bastard. And then he gets killed right when you think, oh, that little bastard. So it's like you enjoy it. Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, that's what you get.
They kill 2 kids in number 2, which I think is the highest number of kids that get killed in any of the Final Destination movies, because they killed the kid at the barbecue at the end.
Yeah, there was that too. And honestly, I laughed hysterically on that one too.
That was my favorite.
But as far as like the deaths go, I would probably say Pigeon Boy and the drug addict, the cocaine guy.
Oh, that was good too. Yes.
With the falling ladder, is that the one you're referring to?
No. That was the lottery boy. The cocaine guy.
Oh, the guy who gets the barbed wire.
Yeah.
Barbed wire fence guillotine sort of deal.
It was it reminded me of what's the Mila Jovovich one?
Oh, Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
The first one where the guy gets
bisected several times. It was
times.
sort of like that, but it was more like analog.
Yes. I was gonna say the pigeons and the barbecue. I don't know.
The barbecue is very good, but the barbecue is so sudden.
Yes,
it's sort of like
because you don't expect it, and
that's what makes it.
But wait,
yeah.
But why was this kid looped into the thread of death? And then there was another thing. I don't know.
See, I expected it both the first time I watched it and on the rewatch, because they explicitly go in to say that like the reason that everyone in number 2 is targeted is because they interacted with somebody who survived the
first
or who died, who survived the first deadly premonition in some variety. And then the guy that gets barbed wire fenced saves that kid from getting hit by the emergency responding vehicles when the woman is trapped in the vehicle, and they get everyone to like come and jaws a lifer out. Like he's saved at that point in time. So like basically the movie lets us know like well before the barbecue scene that he is basically marked for death, because in Death's design he should have died by being hit by that emergency vehicle, but our friend the Coke guy saved him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat what you just said, Raymond?
It was Zack who was speaking.
Oh.
I was just talking about how like they did telegraph the kid dying at the barbecue because he was saved by the guy. When the emergency vehicles were speeding onto the field to save the woman who was trapped in the car, and like right before that they had gone out of their way to specify that all of the characters in the second one had interacted with the people who had survived the initial disaster in the first movie, and that's why because they should have died earlier, but they were saved by the changes in the timeline from Alex and all of them getting off of the Flight 180.
So question for you. So still, why did that impact that young man at the barbecue? Because, what was his name, Brian? Because, so the guy that was the drug addict would have had to have died, but then why is Brian looped in? Because he saves him, but he wasn't part of the initial...
Because the drug addict was supposed to have died beforehand. I forget specifically what the example was for him, but like all of the people that are saved by the premonition in number 2 were supposed to have died shortly after the premonition in number 1. Like, so they weren't even supposed to be alive to have died in the car accident, but then they're saved again. So, like, the fact that they're still alive means that anyone that they interact with, especially if they save their lives when they're supposed to die by death's design, that death is also... So, like the kid was always supposed to die.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Like, if he wasn't going to die at the barbecue, he was supposed to die when he got hit by the car. And if he wasn't going to die when he got hit by the car, there was supposed to be something else that we're unaware of where he was supposed to die.
So then, I mean, do we know... I mean, we don't see them in 3 or 4, but do we know that Kimberly and Tom ultimately made it out of the loop or no?
Yes. Later movies confirm that.
Okay. And then, but then why are they sort of bypassed?
They are bypassed because of the rule that's introduced in number 2, which is if you die, but then come back to life, that skips the order. But what's weird about that is that, like, it should really only apply to her. It shouldn't apply to him. Like, once she dies, it should skip over to him. But the movie establishes that, like, if you die and come back to life, then it's like they do explicitly say it in number 2, which, there's...
That new life line, right? The new life will cancel out death or something like that.
Well, the baby was born, right?
Well, that had nothing to do with anything after all.
That was a red herring.
So she wasn't part of the cycle, right?
Yeah, they established that, like, she gets off the highway before the accident, so she's never a part of the initial disaster.
Okay, got it. But then, how does Tom escape?
That's sort of the rub, is that, like, if like we're being a stickler about the rules, like, it should go to him, but, like, I don't know, like, maybe, like, the weird rule is that, like, oh, because she died but then didn't die, that, like, it just negates it, like, it should go back to her. I don't know, because he, like, by the way the rules work, he should be dead regardless and she should be safe.
Right. And then Clear, I didn't expect her to get it either for some reason, but I guess it makes sense that it would cycle back to her. As much as of the 4 that we've watched, this is still my favorite in the bunch, but I didn't particularly care for how they got rid of her. It just felt very, what's the word I'm looking for? Rushed, maybe?
Convenient.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like
she didn't have her own death. She was like, it was like a twofer. Right.
And then I also, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I really hated that Alex died off screen and all he is like a newspaper headline. Like, that really bothered me because he is the main point of view character in the first one. So you would think that he would get some spectacular death because he tried to find the loophole.
I think that is a purely sort of Hollywood production sort of issue. I think they probably didn't want to pay whatever Devon Sawa was asking to get him back, even just to die.
Interesting. That makes sense.
So, like, that was the solve, was to kill him off screen, which, unfortunate, but, like, the reality of the situation is that, like, they only have so much money to make the movie, and, like,
right.
They have to choose where to put.
Yeah, even in the newspaper clipping, they don't even show his face. He's face down in the picture.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, they'd have to pay for the likeness rights.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they cut him out completely. I felt bad though because he was like the main character in that first one, so kind of to have him just be an afterthought felt kind of.
To be fair though, and going back to killing Clear in this one, like, it makes sense to sort of establish that moving forward that, like, all of these protagonists are they are viable to be killed. Like they don't have plot armor.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can die on screen, they can die off screen. Like no one is safe from death ultimately, except for at the end of this movie, Kimberly and our boy Tom, the sheriff.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any additional thoughts before we give numbers on this one?
No, not really. I definitely think of the ones that we've seen so far, this one was my favorite. I don't know why. I just, like Zach was saying, they tried to like make things a bit more
lighthearted,
comedic, or not. I mean, I wouldn't say comedic because nothing is really comedic about any of this. It's just sort of there's a little bit that you're able to laugh at it a bit more when something horrible happens.
Right.
And
they found the niche.
Yeah.
They were like circling the niche on the first one, and then on this one they like locked into the groove.
Yes, I think and I especially think they handled it in the second one the best. Like in the third and the fourth one, they were trying to follow that formula, but I don't think they did it as well. This one, they really just got it perfect. And so if I were to say of the ones we saw, this one was probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, this was my
plus they added that rule that made it a little bit more concrete, so you can have a victor. You know, the protagonist wins the end of the day.
What is it, final girl?
Yeah, you get your final girl or whatever you want to call it, final cop too.
Yeah.
But
I think another thing, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think another thing that we noticed was the first one was high schoolers. I'm assuming the second ones were more young adult, right? Because they're going to Fort Lauderdale for, I guess, spring break. So I'm assuming that it's like college break.
Yeah, I think they were in college.
And then before we move into the next one, the third one, I think the third one was also teenagers in high school, right?
Yes.
And then the fourth one is young adults, because we were like, oh, how do you have money to go to Amsterdam? And what do you do for a living? Because that's what I want to do. I don't see you working. So, but you have money to have this nice apartment and whatnot.
I mean, honestly, they all sort of look like Hollywood high school kids. Like nobody in high school looked like any of those people.
No.
But yeah.
All right. Well, before we start talking about the third one, number 2, Zach, 1 to 10, what would you give it?
So it's a bit tough for me because I personally think that 2 is the strongest of all of them, but it's hard for me to rate it higher than 1 because 1 did so much of the legwork that like I can't isolate 2 from 1. Like I can isolate 3 and 4 like as just sequels, but I feel like there's such a back and forth dialogue between the first 2 movies that like I kind of want to give it a tie and say like a 7 and what did I say, a 9 on the other one, an 8.
Yeah.
Like I want to give it the same. Like I think if I were to put it, like they're both tied for first place for me, 1 and 2.
All right, that's fair. I mean, again, you have the clear character coming back, so there is sort of this interconnectedness to the story.
Plus
so
plus all the people involved in the second one were
sort
involved because they were touched by the lives of the people in the first one.
Right, that makes
sense.
So
there's those films are more intertwined, the first and the second one, whereas they're, at least as far as I know, the third and the fourth one, I don't think I don't think anything that happened in the first 2 really affect those people other than, oh, we Googled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this, I gave the first one a 7. I think I'm going to give this one an 8 because I feel like it is the stronger of the series that we've watched so far. It made me laugh. The deaths are just ridiculous. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, this is like absolute popcorn entertainment. Is it going to change your life? No, but I mean, it's not supposed to. I mean, this is just a silly movie by one of our more prolific horror directors, James Wong, who's just, I think, having fun. I mean, I feel like you feel that in every piece of the frames.
Number 2 is David R. Ellis. Wong is 1 and 3.
Oh,
David R. Ellis is 2 and 4.
Sorry. That's right. I pulled up the page for the third one, so I'm looking at that. Zach is correct. But yes, I feel like of the first 4, The second one's the strongest, so I would give it an 8. What do you say?
Yeah, I'd probably give this one an 8 as well. Of all of them, it's the one I enjoyed the most. I had a good time watching it. The first one I just felt was kind of average. It does put down the initial groundwork. The second one does rely on it, but I got to be honest, I could have watched the second one without watching the first, and I still would have gotten the entire thing. And
Oh, for sure.
maybe I think probably the second one, if I were to recommend these films to anybody who hadn't seen it, I would say watch the second one, and if you're interested in what happens in the first, go back to the first.
You don't think it's dependent on order? Because a lot of what happens...
No, but the way they explain everything, they explain it in such a way that it's sort of like it's like lore or backstory, and it's sort of like, do you really want to see it in detail? Go ahead, watch that one. It's not as entertaining, but it's still an okay picture.
Well, I feel like also the first one is really making a concerted effort to be a horror film. Like, I think, to Zach's point, the second one, you introduce the levity, but I think in the first one, I think you're going for scares. You're trying to make a serious horror film.
I gotta be honest, I didn't find any of these scary. It's just sort of like this
jump
sort of like
scare
this
kind of. I mean, it's not.
I don't even know about that. It's more about sort of this anticipatory anxiety that you feel when it's just like, okay, all of these things. How are all of these things going to mesh to kill this person?
Right.
But as far as like actually being scared, because like we said, we're talking about a disembodied force. We're not really talking about a killer or something like that. Even in other supernatural things, there's just something else there. Like I wouldn't say, okay, this is on the lines of like a Hereditary,
right? No,
where there's dread.
Yeah.
I never felt any dread. It was just sort of like me waiting to see, okay, well, all right, how is, I don't know, this clothesline going to work with the soap on the floor? I kind of got that worked out, but the water, and then there's an electrical outlet somewhere. It's scissors. How is this going to all combine for this kid to basically kill himself?
Yeah.
And that's not really scary to me.
No,
it's just sort of like I'm waiting. It's
Well, okay, so do you know what like the definition is between like a mystery film and a suspense film is?
No, tell us.
Go ahead.
Yeah, tell us.
So like in a mystery, the character knows, but the audience don't. Mm-hmm. So like we're trying to figure out what the characters know, and that's what the mystery is. And then in the suspense, the audience knows, but the characters don't. So what we're waiting for is for the audience or for the characters to find out. And like I think that like this sort of has more in common, at least the first two, with suspense than it does with like what we traditionally think of as horror.
Yeah. Because
like we know that death is coming, but the characters don't know that death is coming. So the like to Ray's point, like how is this leaking faucet going to then tie into the clothesline in the bathtub? And there's like what the movies play with is a lot of misdirection, especially going back to number 2 and the dentist scene. And like you think it's going to be like the drill, you think it's going to be like all these other things are going to be, and like you're in suspense as to like, okay, like I know that death is here, I know that death is present, I know that death is coming for this character, but how is death going to do it?
Right.
And like so I think it's more of a suspense than a horror.
That makes sense.
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to convey. Yeah, it's definitely more of a suspense. There was never any moment where I was scared.
Yes. No, fair. But I think these films are just automatically looped in the horror genre. So
because of the body count.
Right. So I feel like I agree with you guys 100%. It's not like traditional or like pure horror, but there are horrific elements to the stories. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to, at least I hope you're not going to be up like sleepless nights contemplating things in these films, but it's just silly, over the top entertainment for me. So yeah, of the 4 that we have seen, this is absolutely my favorite, and I would grade it just a little bit above the first one. Although to Zach's point, the first one did a lot of the world building so that the second one could just fly. So definitely, I think if you're going to watch them, I think you should watch them together. Absolutely. But I also agree you don't have to. Like if the second one's on TV, you can sit and just turn off your brain and check it out. But I think there is some niceness to telling or watching the stories in the order.
I do agree with Ray, though, that, like, if you wanted to introduce somebody, like, you could introduce them to two. And I don't think that they would be so, like, behind that they wouldn't be able to put together, like, what one established with, like, I think there's enough context clues within two to where, like, you could use that as onboarding for somebody to the franchise.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.